Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 21st of May, year 2025. I hope everyone is starting to feel the warm weather and trying to prepare for all things that you can do in summer. You start swimming and all those fun kind of activities. Let me welcome our panel today. We have April here. April is a psychic, a medium. She has quite a few modalities of healing, like massage therapy and other modalities. So good evening, April. She's been on our panel for quite a few years, always filled with wisdom. And then we have Lakshmi here. Good evening, Lakshmi, who is one of our workshop leaders. Whenever we host workshops, she leads sessions in mantra chanting. Every Tuesday, she has her own meditation group. So if anybody's interested in meditation, then Lakshmi is available on Tuesdays. I know there are quite a few people from our group that attend Lakshmi's meditation session, right? Josie and Patricia do. And then we have Francesca here, who is part of our group and contributes quite a lot to our Facebook group. So good evening, everyone. April, I'm going to look at this question. I didn't capture, so this question was asked off Eckhart. He's teaching a course on a new earth. And so Francesca, if you watch the replay of the Q&A, you might remember the question. I don't exactly have word-to-word transcription, but they said something around the lines of considering the tumultuous nature of the environment in the States and many other countries, it seems like it is better to leave that none of this matters. So leave meaning leave this planet, right? So her question was, do more conscious people get to the point that they do not care just because they are more conscious? So I want you to speak on that. Do more conscious people get to the point that they do not care because, I mean, they look at the tumultuous, first of all, I don't know if it's tumultuous, but because he's talking about a new earth and creating a new earth, and they're talking about what the political environment, like certain people perceive that it is very tumultuous in the States and a lot of other countries. So she's like, none of this matters at all. So in kind of like a passivity, like a kind of inertia state, right? None of this matters, so why should I care? So should we get into that state? Why should I care? None of this matters.
Well, I don't think that's the state, though. I don't think it's the state of none of this matters. Why should I care? I don't care. Because it's not that you don't care, and it's not that you don't want inner peace, world peace, love, happiness for everyone. But at the same time, you do realize the polarity here, the duality here, and you do understand that on the grander scale, again, through the eyes of source or through the eyes of spirit, that it does not matter. And I've explained, like, I've had that state before from watching Eckhart. I've been able to, get into that understanding and get into that state where you are looking at things from a higher dimension. You're looking at things from a higher perspective, from the soul perspective. And you realize that everyone has things that they have to go through. Everyone has things they have to experience. And that includes Earth, that includes the collective consciousness. And it's not that I don't care, but I just understand that a lot of these things have to happen in order for people to evolve. Not that I want anything bad to happen, but it's a growing process. So, if you are riding your bike and you're not paying attention and you fall, then you learn, oh, I need to pay attention. So a lot of it is a learning process. But however, I've also talked about how that's kind of got me into trouble because, especially with the job that I do, I can't look at somebody and go, oh, it doesn't matter. You're just going to go back to the other side, because there is a growth, a healing, a process, and an integration process. And we have to heal the wounds that are happening. So, and Eckhart cracks me up, but we've all seen him, where he's brought up a subject and he's kind of chuckling, right? And that's because he's looking at it from that higher perspective, where he realizes that many of the things that we worry about they're futile. And I'm not talking about, the wars or the death or anything like that, but there's little things that they just seem silly when you look at them from the soul perspective of, whether you got that job or not, or whether you got that promotion. They seem very silly from that perspective. So what I have a lot of people who get really are really wrapped up into the political things that are happening, the different things that are happening around the world. They get very passionate, they get very upset. And to an extreme extent, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any passions or you shouldn't care, but at the same time, you need to just do your part. And your part is being that love and light. It's not going out and screaming and yelling. That isn't going to produce results. The results come from you being the love and light, and then that spreads out. That radiates, and then others pick up on that. And then they feel that energy, they feel that difference. And then they open the door for someone. They be kind to someone. That's the answer. And the more that we do that, the more that the world will shift, earth will shift, consciousness will shift, and these things will stop happening as much. So that is my perspective. It is not that you don't care, but you do gain a higher perspective. Earth is still learning and growing as well. We are learning and growing as a collective. And I do think that we're advancing, and I do think that we're getting better. Not to say that, my eyes are closed to what's happening in the world. However, I do feel like, we're getting better. We're growing as humans. We're growing as beings and learning that we are all one and we are all love. And that is what we all deserve and what we all need. So.
I love that pointer, April, that we need to be the love and light. We need to be the exemplary citizen or exemplary human being, right? And the world will change as we change. So beautiful, incredibly amazing. Thank you so much. So grateful. Lakshmi, did you want to add to what April
Yes.
said? Thank you.
Completely agree with April that we need to be that love and light, because when we all were unconscious, we contributed towards this negativity that is right now, currently, whatever we are watching, all the negativity on this earth is just a contribution of every single human being when we are unconscious. So slowly, we are contributing, raising our frequency, right? We are now becoming more and more aware that all we can do right now is to contribute by raising our energy, and that way we can envision that new earth that Eckhart talks about. That Ramana Maharshi was a very enlightened being, and he would just sit in that hills of Arunachala and meditate all day long. And one day somebody comes and questions him, saying that we need your teachings throughout the world. Why are you just sitting in one corner and meditating while you can come everywhere and give speeches and people will benefit through your teaching? And all he says is, how do you know that I'm not helping people by sitting here? So he knew that, he was so enlightened that he knew that just by doing that alone, that he was raising the consciousness of the earth. And I was just reading the story yesterday. It's this king who lived in a village, and he used to roar like thunder, and everybody was just so scared of him in that village. He would the minute his procession starts coming, everybody would just move away from that king, because people were just scared of his voice. He used to roar like that. But there was one innocent girl who was also kind of enlightened in that village, who was not afraid of him. So one day the king was walking on the street, and there was a very old man who was deaf, who didn't hear the king coming. And the king roared, "Move away from my path." And still the man didn't hear. And he strikes him with one blow. And the poor man was holding a bowl of fruit or something, and everything falls. So this girl goes to him and says, "You could have helped him." And the king was like, amazed at that this little girl is coming and questioning him. And she was not afraid. He again asked, "What did you say?" And he again says, the same thing, that she says, "You could have helped him with your kindness. There was no need for you to be so cruel." And now, he goes back to his kingdom, and he says that now the girl has to come to his kingdom. So her grandmother is so afraid, saying that, "Please don't go." But she goes, and again the king says that, "Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me? Do you know that I am the king?" So she says, "I know you're the king. That is why I'm speaking to you this way." And she says that, "You know that lightning can strike faster than thunder. You are roaring like thunder, but you don't know that lightning can strike faster than thunder." And in some, that when that came from her deep eye, something touches him, and he knows that he is not helping people by roaring every day. And he calls her to be in that courtyard to advise him what to do. And then people start he starts listening to people. He says that she says how listening is much more important than roaring like thunder. And from that time onwards, he starts being a listener. So just one person, this is a story, of course, but what the story is telling is that just one person, when they are aligned, can bring about a change. And we know there is another. It's not that people who are enlightened don't care. Absolutely not. People who are enlightened know what is happening, and they want to contribute towards the new earth. That is why they practice more and more of those being centered, being aligned, and staying focused. Those are my 2 cents, Poonam. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the story,
Yeah.
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
You always have really great metaphors for how we should live. So eternally grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that's what Eckhart is saying about a new earth as well, right? Our job is to bring that new consciousness. What April said is love and light. So bring that consciousness that is kindness, that is love, this unconditional love, no matter what is going on, just bring that unconditional love
Yeah.
to,
We ourselves can see how people around us are reacting as we are practicing, as we are aligned, how people are changing, right? So we know that this works for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then if we are saying that this world is getting unconscious, then what we resist persists. One of the things that Eckhart says is what we resist persists, what we fight strengthen. So if you bring that war kind of mindset, you're just contributing, like you said, Lakshmi, you're just contributing more and more energy to the negative, right? If you think that the world is getting negative, if you want to fight it, then even energy of, oh, I don't care, this is not going to change, I just need to leave, none of this matters. If I say, I have this very insipid, I don't care, none of this matters kind of, why should I do anything? Then I am contributing. That is also, we may think that is more awakened, but that
But
is
it's
like
not.
a judgment
Yeah.
of what is, non-acceptance of what is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in
Yeah.
that non-acceptance, we are actually introducing more of the same negative energy. If we think that the world is getting negative, and to me, I actually see the world getting more positive because I see the changes that Dr. Joe is bringing. I see the changes Sadhguru is bringing, the changes that Eckhart is bringing. Like each one in their own space, there are so many spiritual teachers that are coming up, like new spiritual, Ian Van Zandt, Lisa
Mm-hmm.
Nichols. There's so many new spiritual teachers that are constantly, I mean, all of you are teachers in your own right. Like April has contributed so much to this panel and advice to everyone, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, how much peace and love did she bring?
Mm-hmm.
You, Lakshmi,
Mm-hmm.
Francesca,
Mm-hmm.
each and every one of you. So that in itself shows that yes, it matters. It matters in what, like Eckhart say, how we do things than what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So since we are doing it with
Yep.
loving kindness, that's what we are propagating, right?
Yeah.
So Francesca, did you want to comment on this?
Yes, this is my favorite topic.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I can speak about this all day. The first thing that comes to mind for me is the story of Gandhi when he was in, doing the work that we're doing, like Eckhart does and Dr. Joe and all, the beautiful teachers does. And everybody kept telling him to fight, and they were like, why aren't you fighting? And in the end, his own people killed him because they weren't at the level of awareness that he was at. They thought that he didn't care, that what he was doing wasn't enough, when in fact he had evolved to such a high level of consciousness. He was actually practicing what the Christ did, which is wisdom, compassion, nonviolence, and skillful means. Skillful means comes forth from the level of mind that doesn't get caught up in the dualistic mind view. Oh, these guys are bad. No, it's those guys' fault, and blaming everything really from those splits, multiple millions of splits, right? States of consciousness. And when we start to learn how to wield, these energies of skillful means, so that's what it is. Sorry, there's my sister's birthday today, so there's in the background. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you pretty clearly, Francesca. So,
Okay, thank you. So skillful means, right, is really the art of drawing upon this universal wisdom, right? The work that we have done, we are actually doing tremendous amount of work to no longer contribute to that which got us here in the first place. which is what the Christ did, right? He recognized the ignorance of ego mind, right? The dualistic mind view and all of the ideas, millions of gazillions of ideas that it comes up with to tell us, oh yeah, we should do this and that and that. And before you know it, we were in chaos. The world that we've created as it is today is a result of those dualistic mind views, right? I always say, we become lost with no fare for return sometimes, right? And what the Christ does is he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they did, what they do, what they've done, meaning he recognized the ignorance of ego mind. And he recognized that, well, if he did something to the people that were crucifying him, then he's now becoming like them. He's actually contributing to the problem that caused the issue in the first place, right? The causation. And so as evolved beings, as teachers of presence, which we all are here on our panel, and, we've learned how to wield that presence, in extraordinary ways, thanks to, the work of Eckhart and Dr. Joe. There's a motorcycle in the background. Can you guys hear it?
No, we're hearing you pretty clearly.
You can hear me still?
Yes.
Without the motorcycle?
Yeah. We can hear you
Okay.
pretty clearly.
Okay, so I apologize if I sound really loud, because from what I can hear, it sounds like I can't hear myself.
No worries. No worries.
They have like their party getting ready to go out, and so there's multiple voices. So I do apologize. Yeah, so it's not that we're not doing anything. If anything, we're space holders. We are actually doing great amount of work, that's not necessarily understood, from the lower, I don't want to say lower levels of mind, because we don't even think that way, like higher, lower, in the higher realms, nothing is separate. There isn't that duality or any of that, right? What we're doing is we're grounded, okay? We're space holders. We are aware of that which contributes to the causation of suffering, the causation of, we understand manifestation from depths that, majority of people don't understand, right? So we're aware of the causation. As a result of that, we practice mindfulness, not to so that we're not contributing to the mindset, the thought formation. We're not pulled into the frequency of those thought formation, the distraction, drifting. In fact, we're actually, it takes a lot of work and effort to actually hold space from these depths, being able to sit and, it's like, oh my God, the entire world is going to fall apart, but, remain still and not contribute to the formations that we were programmed to embody. And because that's what we've done, we've embodied this dualistic mind view, right? We show up, a certain way. We show up from the egoic state of mind, those thought formations and the feeling formations, that really all the interconnection of these formations that it generates. That's the way we were programmed by our very own mind and all of the external sources that contributed to that, right? And so for eons, since beginningless time, we've been feeding our own cycles of suffering. It's why, I say we suffer the wrong way. It's because we're missing that depth of understanding, that the Christ understood, in order to come into that, that Eckhart understands, right? Eckhart shows up from presence. And in order to understand that, we need to become the change that we wish to see in the world. And that change means, as a being, I become an embodiment of that presence. I show up from that state of consciousness. I don't get caught in the entanglements, and that's where it gets noisy, right? And this takes a ton of practice, like hours and hours and days and months of work to master, right? It's part of the self-mastery process, not to get caught up in the entanglements of the noise that's happening, because the noise that's happening, you know, whether it's politics or war or there's always going to be noise, you know. This is the world that we've created, you know. I don't want to say unfortunately, because it's from the darkness that the, you know, the wisdom of the light comes forth from that darkness. However, the darkness, everything is a mirror here to teach us something about ourselves. And what this is designed to do, it's designed to show us as it's happening. You know, if something is happening and everybody's going off about, you know, let's say Trump or something negative, and I go online and I join that, you know, and I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. What am I doing? I'm feeding those toxicity, that negative energy, those, you know, formations within myself. And essentially what I'm doing, I think it's going to Trump. You know, that's what the disillusioned mind wants us to believe, but it's not. And instead, what I'm doing by participating, I'm essentially feeding those formations within myself. I'm making it bigger. Now I've become this toxic mess, right? So because everything is a mirror and here to teach us something about ourselves, what it's designed to teach us is, you know, if I find myself getting caught in like the temptation, for example, to show up and, you know, join in this conversation of toxicity that's happening, then it's an opportunity for me to pause and go, oh my God, to recognize that I am in my egoic state of mind. My mind is flowing from its lower formation, right? The lower frequencies of consciousness. Whatever word you gave that, from my darkness, from my shadow, you know, from the unhealed, I'm showing up from the unhealed versions of myself, you know, the parts of me that haven't yet evolved. Because if those parts of me were evolved, something external outside of me wouldn't be able to penetrate my consciousness now, would it? Right? I wouldn't get pulled into that pain body toxicity. But what happens when we dissolve these pain body programs is then all of a sudden there is nothing there for it to stick to. You know, so we could actually read, oh my God, the world is going to come to an end tomorrow. In my case, I've died so many times now. Before I died, I'd be like, okay, I guess we're going to start over. I mean, we're all, you know, going to be, you know, leaving this planet at some point, right? So, you know, for me, I would worry more about my kids, right? Because I've lived, you know, a full life and so forth, but, you know, they're now starting, right? But from a worry perspective, no, it's becoming present and accepting that way, you know, that what's happening, right? It doesn't mean we're condoning anything. Oh, no, 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 no. This is why I love talking about, you know, speaking about this topic, because it doesn't mean we're condoning anything. It doesn't mean we're on board with anything. It doesn't mean we're picking sides. It means we are playing our role. You're just not able to see it. You're not at the level of awareness as yet in order to understand what it is that we're doing in the background. We open up portals. I know I open up portals. I'm saying that very humbly. And there are things that we're doing to anchor these new states of consciousness as we evolve into this new earth. You know, we are creating this new, we're playing a role, you know, in creating this new earth. We are doing our part to ensure we don't repeat the cycles that played a role in the causation of our suffering in the first place.
Thank you. So humbled, Francesca. I like the pointer that you gave that if we are contributing, we are sitting on the keyboard and contributing, then we are actually inhabiting that toxicity and increasing the negativity within us, right? So beautiful, beautiful pointer.
Yes, and what's
And then
within, as within, so without.
exactly. And that there's always polarity. You brought the polarity is needed, kind of, right? So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Grateful, eternally grateful for all the wisdom. April, I wanted to ask you, in the beginning of when you started speaking, you were talking about that in your because you do counseling, right, as your day job, that nothing matters, like on the other side. I want you to explain that a little bit more so that people don't feel that it is insensitive to say, oh, anyway, when we pass away in the other realm, we are just going to return to infinite love, right? So anything in this three-dimensional world or on this planet, that's how you would, it's okay, this person is going through their lessons. If you want to explain the whole thing a little bit more so that people understand that in the totality, all of us, like whatever is going on makes perfect sense. It's flawless perfection.
Mhm. Yeah.
Correct? Is
Yeah.
that correct? Is that what you were trying to say? That it's flawless perfection? If there's a war in Ukraine, that is flawless perfection. How much ever we may think that, oh my God, people are being, women are being raped, children are being raped, or there's so much ammunition, there's so much, but there's flawless perfection in everything, right? If you want to explain that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that, again, we want these events or that they are not hurtful or traumatic. You know, by no means are we trying to say that. But when you look at things from the soul perspective, from the human perspective, it's painful, it's horrible, these are bad things. But when you look at it from the soul perspective, you realize that you as a soul chose to come here. As crazy as that sounds, you did choose to come here, and you did choose to come during this time frame, during this era, with what is going on in the world. And prior to you coming, you knew as a soul on the other side, you knew that these things were going to happen. So we have full awareness on the other side. When we get here, we don't remember that. Some of us wake up to that, but most of us, many of us don't. So it's important to keep that in perspective, is that you did choose to come here as a soul during this time. You did know that these things were going to be happening. The most important thing to realize is that I remember a phase in my journey on this where this statement became so annoying to me that, oh, you're here to learn, and you're here to grow, and you're here to learn lessons. And considering the events that have happened in my life, I'm like, that is a bunch of BS. That is just BS, you know. But really, to everyone, these lessons, these events, they are not designed to be happy necessarily. Most of us at this point don't learn from happiness still. We still don't learn from happiness. We do, unfortunately, learn from our difficulties, from our pain. That is still how we learn. Now, my Eckhart's New Earth and my vision is one where we don't need these traumatic events to learn. You know, like Poonam and I were talking, we don't need our car to blow up before we pull over. We don't need that. But so we're not negating the trauma that you go through. We're not negating the pain. What we are doing is we are understanding that there are reasons for these things that are happening. We're also understanding that the soul did choose to come here, knowing what was going to happen. When I say, you know, the idea is that, oh, you don't worry, you'll just go back to the other side. That is why your soul chose to come here in the end. Your soul said, I'm going to come down, I'm going to go through these things, I'm going to learn these lessons. And there is a council of sorts that is there when this is happening, when this planning is happening. And the council may say, you know, this is kind of a lot. And you as a soul are like, no, I just want to go. I want to get this done. I want to do this. I can do it. I want to learn. And they're like, oh, you're taking on a little much. But then in the end, the idea is that you as a soul will take all of this learning back to the other side. You will be healed as a soul on the other side, and therefore it will be okay. So that's why we say that, is because at some point we will end up back on the other side, and you will be healed and you will be okay. But one of the keys, though, is you need to do the healing here, because you don't want to carry that pain with you. You don't want to carry that trauma with you, right? And then we're coming into another lifetime and we have all this trauma and things that are not healed. We want to heal the things that we're going through now, in this lifetime, in this body. We want to learn to let those things go. We want to learn to heal those spaces and turn love on in those spaces. That is what we want to do here. We are not meant to come here and suffer. That is not the goal. It's not the goal. It doesn't mean you won't go through things. We are meant to go through things, but we are meant to heal and then show others how to heal. Spread that light, spread that love. And that's also as Earth as a being. Earth as a being. She is consciousness. She is learning. She is growing. Her people are learning and growing. And while these things that are going on in the world are not good, to me, it feels like, to me, like more and more people are saying, you know what, it's enough. That's enough. Like, stop. There's no more of this. And that's exactly what we want. We want more and more people to be like, you know what, no more. So is that clear, Poonam, that it's not like, oh, you know, whatever, I'm just going to go to the other side and be healed? Because there is healing and growing and learning that we do on the other side still as well. And the reason that you sit in front of the council and with your higher self before you come in here and you decide what you need to work on, it's because these are things that we didn't heal in the other lifetimes that we came here, or in the other planets that we were on, or galaxies. So you can't just say, well, it don't matter if I heal anything. No, it does matter. You do want to try to heal the spaces, the hurts, the traumas that you have. It is important to do that. The more healed you are, the more love and light you hold, the more love and light you spread. Right?
Incredibly amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, April. Infinite gratitude for your wisdom. If a person, let's say they said, oh, I don't want to heal this lifetime. I just want to live as unconsciously, spiritually unconsciously as I mean, however I am, and I'm just going to keep continuing the spiritually unconscious self, right?
Yeah.
So, can you take us through the cycle of what would my fate be if I said, okay, I don't want to heal. I just, which a lot of human beings do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know somebody told me um, like father may have molested his daughter, right? And mother may have tortured her children, or stepmother may have tortured her children, but there's no remorse there. Now 70 years old or 80 years old, they still have not understood that the actions, and they may be, you know, what I feel is when you do those kind of actions, like Eckhart says, right? It's not like karmically you get your it's not like that person is completely exonerated from their actions, right? Karmically, they do suffer. We don't realize that the prostate cancer that this human being is um, suffering from is because their children, like they molested their daughters or something, right? Or I mean, I see that they suffer, right? But they may not equate it. So unconscious human beings don't even realize that their current illness, their pain and suffering is because of their actions of the past.
Right. Right. Yeah. So some people may not
Right.
ever heal. They may not ever become spiritual, or conscious. They may not in this lifetime. And that is again where this statement comes in, where we would say, well, that's okay. That's okay because, um, maybe it'll be in their next lifetime. So, I mean, it is kind of like a catch-22 thing here where, um, this life is important. The things that you do and learn are important to you and your soul. Not only that, but remember, we start out from source. And it is almost like we are on this wheel. And we are actually learning every experience that there is to get back to that oneness, to get back to that source, because you can't know all unless you experience all. So I have to be Black, I have to be white, I have to be Indian, I have to be male, I have to be female, I have to be all these things in order to know all. I cannot know all if I haven't experienced them. So, there are several humans that will not come to this awareness or this awakening. I also feel, there's some people that they're only meant to go so far in each lifetime as well. And, there's barriers and blocks that pop up, such as traumas, perhaps too many traumas for one in particular person or soul. There's also personalities. Some personalities are just, perhaps they're more analytical and they're just not open to this. But there's no like 100% to this either. There are always exceptions to the rule. So there are several reasons as to why someone won't awaken. However, it is okay. But even just the spark of it in this lifetime. So let's say we have someone who is not going to fully awaken, but for whatever reason, they end up with the Power of Now book in their hands. And let's say they look at it, but they think it's a bunch of garbage. It has still put a spark in there. It has still put something in there, right? Or somebody has said something to them, or maybe they watch a certain YouTube video and it kind of plants a seed. That could be all that they were supposed to do at this lifetime. And then the next lifetime, they will really begin the search and the growth and the awakening, right? So it's a process of always evolving and growing and expanding. So that to me is why, you want to, if you can, plant seeds, but you don't want to force it, and you're not necessarily in charge of it. So again, you're just projecting your love and light. And that many times is the seed. That is enough for that person to either later that night, or maybe it's 6 months down the road, just reflect back and go, how come they didn't get mad or scream or yell at me, or, and that's a seed that's there, right? That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. And I have a few people in my life that they won't evolve much farther than what they are, and that's okay. It is okay. So
It may take them a few more lifetimes.
yeah, a few more lifetimes. And this isn't to say that we don't ever have emotions or we don't ever go through things. I have emotions. I most certainly have emotions. I have things that happen in my life. I have days that, I am like, I'm not sure about this whole game, and I'm not sure who designed it, but I definitely need to talk to the designer. Definitely, right? Because you don't want to not have any emotions. That is part of the human experience. Is being attached to the emotions is what the problem is. And it is allowing the stories to run is what the problem is. The negative stories. And then we become attached to the stories and the negative beliefs. But yeah, so I'm not saying you're not going to have any emotions or that things aren't ever going to bother you. But again, you're watching the story, you're listening to the stories, and you do need to kind of see if you can step back, go into meditation, and listen to yourself, your higher self, your guides, your God, your Jesus, whoever, and see if you can find the higher purpose. There is a higher purpose. And sometimes even that statement is annoying, like, oh, there's a higher purpose. Well, there is. If you can find the higher purpose, and then if you can connect with that, then normally you can gain some peace, some resolution, and some peace.
Beautiful. Infinite gratitude. Thank you so much for the guidance. I agree with you, April. Like I've had for the past 4 or 5 weeks, I've had like this, like a pulled groin muscle, and I would get frustrated, right? That I'm not healing it fast enough. It takes anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. That's what I read to heal. And I refuse to go to a doctor, right? So I'm doing like home therapy. It's not even like I'm trying to accelerate it by this thing. But I feel like with meditation, like I do so much of Dr. Joe's work, that the healing should happen, which I'm like 98%, 99% there. But I just wanted to heal like immediately, right? So I can notice that the frustration in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, the frustration that I can still feel frustration of not healing. So the ego is still there. Like you said, right? It's not like we don't, but then I know how to calm myself down. Like what Dr. Joe calls the refractory period is very small. I notice the frustration, and I know the frustration is not what is going to heal me, right? I need to get to that unconditional love, and that's going to heal me. So
That's interesting, because I had a groin muscle pulled.
When?
In the last week. It was like last week.
So how I mean, are you healed, or are you still going through the pain?
It's okay now, but that's interesting that you say that, because I remember I was like, what the heck? And I wrote to my girls, on our family chat. I was like, I have not had a pulled groin muscle since I've been a child. So I was shocked.
Yeah, even I was like, and what I was doing, I was actually doing a mobility, you know how you pull your feet and do like a butterfly so that you can actually stretch your groin muscle. So I was like, I am doing, my son always teases me. He says, you need to do more mobility since you're getting older. You need to
Yeah.
do more mobility exercises instead of
Yeah.
like I do weights. A lot of people said women need to do weights when we are getting
Mhm.
older, right? So I lift. So he's like, instead of lifting, you need to do mobility. So I did mobility, and that's how I ended up with the groin muscle uh,
Yeah.
injury, and so I haven't been able to walk. Like, so it impedes this thing, right? Where I want to work out, and this thing, everything
Mm,
stopped because my groin muscle.
yeah,
But
I just I stood up and then I turned and it was like, so I really didn't do anything. However, I did use red light therapy.
where do you find red light therapy?
So I have a red light, an infrared light
Okay,
that I purchased last year
okay,
when I was dealing with my teeth issue.
okay.
So and it's, I mean, it's a big light. It's about this big.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, it's big. So I actually use that uh on it, and then of course, you know, saying, okay, not sure what you are, but we need to heal. So yeah, I it's better now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wishing you a speedy recovery. So,
Yeah, you too.
Francesca, did you want to comment on the end part where I was asking April that some people are going to remain unconscious in this lifetime, right? And the fact that she was saying that like people need to understand that, okay, if we don't heal, or we don't bring healing into us in this lifetime, it's gonna be okay. You'll go to the other side, you'll start all over, right? That's the cycle, the wheel of karma. So if you want to speak to that, and then we can end, if you want to take like short, like 10 minutes or so. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, sure. I can um, make it really short, actually, because it's exactly like April shared, right? It means, you know, this is a being that have, at some unconscious level, have decided to return again, you know, for another round of whatever it is that's going to create the causation, right, of their suffering. Unfortunately, with that, sometimes, you know, that suffering becomes amplified, right? Because the universe doesn't speak English, right? It's not going, the unevolved egoic state of mind isn't going to say, hey, you know, Francesca, like supposing I'm, you know, training an old habit and I'm entertaining this habit, and this habit involves, you know, creating horrific forms of suffering, let's say abuse to other people and so forth. It's not like my egoic state of mind is going to go, okay, Francesca, this is God or the universe speaking, you know, and what you're supposed to do is heal, you know, the causation within you, the conditions that's creating that suffering within you. And when we dissolve, you know, when you dissolve that pain body and you evolve this beautiful mind of yours, you know, you're going to become free from the causation of that suffering. And that's going to influence how you show up in the world. All of a sudden, I'm no longer doing, you know, no, it doesn't teach us that. It doesn't, you know, communicate with us from those levels, right? Not because it's not capable of doing that, because we weren't taught, unfortunately, right? A lot of the spiritual teaching since beginningless time was misunderstood, and so we were, like, I know personally, I can speak for myself, and I know a lot of people personally whom have had the same training. We were taught to look for God as this man up in the sky, you know, perhaps he has a beard, you know, sitting on this chair. So we were taught to look for these things outside of ourselves, you know. We were taught to go into nature, and it's like, oh yeah, we can just give our suffering to nature and nature will fix it for us. That's not how this works. That's the illusion itself, right? We are supposed to self-realize. This is what the, you know, the Eightfold Path talks about, right? It's the process of developing the right mind. But in order to even develop the right mind, we have to be willing to sit with ourselves and and get to know ourselves, get to know the nature of our mind in order to guide it, in the right direction, which is developing the right mind, right? We have to really learn how to experience the essence of who we truly are, because we're not just humans, we're being as well, right? Like we as a whole, without the labels, we are consciousness here to experience and express itself in all of its formations, as we know, infinite possibilities. I'm sometimes scared to say that when I'm talking, about consciousness, because, I'm that, you're that, we're all, little specks of that, right? But we're all here, for different purposes, and that purpose is interconnected to, it's birthed from, actually, I should say, from all of our, imprints, right? When we start to learn how to get out of our own way, we start to birth this essence of who we truly are, and we start to experience it. And this is been missing. I mean, they're beautiful beings, teachers who have taught different parts of this, since beginningless time, going all the way back, to Christ, the Buddha, Gandhi, so many people, Martin Luther King, and so many beautiful evolved beings. Now we have Eckhart, Dr. Joe, many beautiful beings, and for whatever reason, the mind does what the mind does, so these teachings, they were not accepted, they were rejected. A lot of it became lost. And so as a result of that, we became lost, right? And so, yeah, these people unconsciously, and I'm saying unconsciously because they're not even aware there are things like entities that's attached to that unconscious decision that they made. Entities are other like energies or beings, with like energies that have attached itself to their energetic field, right? Like little, I like to visualize it like little balls of, something plugs in here because you're carrying that pain body that can feed on, right? And it plugs in another one over here, another one. And what happens is this actually, because it's feeding on your pain body, it contributes to you showing up from that pain body over and over again, right? It contributes to you showing up from that egoic state of mind. And when you're that deeply unconscious, again, you may very well unconsciously choose to, I say, come back for another round, right? Until you start to realize why you're here, why we're here, and we start to learn how to show up from that more, actually, from this divinity that we are, the Christ, the Buddha, the Tao. There's so many examples, right? The Shiva. We're going to be coming back over and over and over again. So, like I said earlier, if the world suddenly ends tomorrow and I'm not manifesting that or wishing it in any way, shape, or form, this realization of what we call in Buddhism dependent origination, which is, cause and effect, right? Everything in the entire world is operating from that source. There's a causation to every single thing, no matter how much we dissect it, there is an underlying causation. And when we start to understand, when we start to become aware of that causation, understand the nature of it, have a relationship with it because it's coming from within, right? Within us, right? Form that relationship with it. I say, embrace the darkness if it's the darkness that's showing up, right? Give it the attention that it needs. Become fully present. Only from this state can we truly evolve. I hope that makes sense. I'm a little bit distracted today.
No worries.
Thank you.
Beautifully said, that only from presence, like a great note to end it at, that only from presence can we bring that state of what Eckhart would call a new earth, right? So infinite gratitude, Francesca. Thank you. Thank you for the insights. With that, I think we are almost at the top of the hour. So April, I know there are quite a few challenges in your life. I am so humbled, April. Thank you for choosing, all of you. Thank you for choosing. I know each one of you has your challenges, and thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity and being here. So humbling. I'm wishing that we continue, like every 2 weeks we meet and spread this wisdom. I do have, from what you said today, April, I'm going to continue some more conversation in 2 weeks from because I want you to talk about let's talk about it in 2 weeks. Okay, it's getting late, so have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Happy Memorial Day. Like infinite gratitude to all those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. That's what Memorial Day is actually about. So think of all those soldiers that gave up their life, right? And their families that had to endure that huge loss. Probably it may have been their sole provider of the family, and they had to go through devastation. So, so much respect, right, for all of them. So thank you so much, and grateful, eternally grateful for your presence. Many blessings, much love. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye.